John Lusk here of Lusk Archery Adventures. Serious testing, successful hunting. Well, it's a brand new year, and we've got all kinds of cool things lined up for the months ahead. Thank you so much for joining us, for watching this video. Maybe you've subscribed. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Gosh, we have such an incredible community here of over 41,000 subscribers and over 14 million views just in the several years that I've had this channel. And it couldn't happen without all of your support and contribution of broadheads, of comments, of encouragement, of ideas, even critiques. I'm really grateful for the community that we've built and want to welcome you to be a part of it. For those of you who don't know me, I'll just share briefly my background. I went to LSU for undergraduate school, and I got a degree in civil engineering. And then I went to theology school, and I got a master's in theology. And I've worked as a pastor for the last nearly 40 years. Traveled all around the United States, all around the world, lived in Southeast Asia for a number of years, especially in Bangkok, Thailand. Yang Putai Dayu, still speak Thai and get good Thai food when we go to the restaurants. And we helped start a church in Laos and in Cambodia and Myanmar, and helped partner with churches throughout Vietnam, and then moved to the Philippines and lived there for a couple of years. Now we're back in the United States, and we live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, just north of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I serve as a pastor for the DFW Church, dfwchurch.org, and I'm in the Northeast Worship Center. You can watch our online services and hear me preach and stuff like that, see this whole other side of my life. But as it relates to this community, first and foremost, I'm a bow hunter. Man, I grew up bow hunting. My mom and dad were both competitive archers, and my dad bow hunted all the time. So since I've been a little kid, I've been shooting a bow and I've been bow hunting. And then when I came back to the States after being in Southeast Asia, man, I made up for lost time and have hunted so much all over the States and several different nations around the world. I really enjoy bow hunting. Right now, I've been kind of limited because I had so many back problems in 2024. I had a total of 5 surgeries, 3 on my back and then 2 for DVTs, for blood clots in my legs, which I'm still battling with. I'm still in horrible pain. Man, I was hoping I'd be all fresh and ready to go in 2025. I've got a lot of cool hunts planned. I don't want to have to cancel them like I did in 2024, but unfortunately, I'm starting the year with a lot of pain. I just went to the Archery Trade Association, ATA, show, the archery show in Indianapolis last week, and unfortunately had to ride a little mobility scooter around everywhere I went because I can't even walk enough to get around a convention floor, yet alone hike through the mountains and jungles and so forth. So I'm still working on recovery. If you're a praying person, please pray for me to have a good recovery. But I love bow hunting, hope to get back into it. And then I also love gear testing, and I've especially found my niche in testing broadheads. And that came about because my engineering background, my bow hunting background, and then just questioning, how do I know which broadhead to use? I don't know if you realize it, but there are hundreds and hundreds, maybe even close to 1,000 different broadheads out there. I can't believe how many there are. And how do you know which one to choose? Do you just pick up the least expensive one when they go on clearance at Walmart? Or do you just trust what you read in the back of the package? Or you just ask your friend in the bow shop or your bow hunting buddy, hey, which broadhead do you use? And you use whatever one they say, even though that's such a small random sample, right? And they're usually going to answer in a really subjective way. If they killed a big animal with one, they're going to say, that's the best broadhead. If the animal got away, they're going to say, man, that broadhead's terrible. But how do you really know? And so what I set out to do in this channel is not just to tell you which one's the best, but to provide some data points, just some really clear, as objective as I know how, consistent comparative data points. So you can compare one broadhead's performance to another. And then you can decide based on your bow and arrow setup, based on the poundage you pull, based on the shot distance you're taking on, based on the animal that you're pursuing, based on all your personal things, you can use the data points I provide to help you select the best broadhead for your purposes. We train so hard and practice so much and invest so much money in having that hard-earned shot on an animal. Man, that broadhead is the last point in the chain that determines your success or your failure in that pursuit. So I just want to help set up all of you for as much success as possible. That's why I introduce myself as saying serious testing, successful hunting. I want to help you be a more successful hunter as best I can. So I like to evaluate the broadheads based on what I consider to be the 5 most important criteria in affecting lethality. And that is, first of all, the flight, and then the sharpness and edge retention of the blades, and then the penetration, then the durability, and the cut size. Those are the areas that I evaluate, and I have specific tests that I use to evaluate each of those areas. First, for the flight, what I use is I use my crossbow, my Killer Instinct SWAT X1 crossbow. That's what I'm using now. But in 2025, they're just coming out with a new crossbow that I'm going to be replacing and using that for my flight testing, because I can put it on a bog death grip tripod. It is like so stable. I got a nice scope on the Killer Instinct crossbow, and I can just fire field points at 30 yards into a really tight little group. And I do that, and then I just screw on the broadhead. I don't adjust anything, and I see how it flies. And the only variation is based on the broadhead. So it's a pretty good way to evaluate the effect that the different broadhead has on the flight of the arrow. And I'm using a really heavy bolt. It's like almost 700 grains. So the speed that it's coming out is about the speed of my vertical bow. It's not like going 500 feet per second. It could, with a lighter arrow, go like 435 feet per second, the crossbow I'm going to be using. But this way, it's about 300 feet per second, which is closer to compound bow speeds and a little more relatable, a little more helpful when it comes to determining flight, especially through a vertical bow that most of you are using. And then for my vertical bow, for most of the shooting and hunting, I use an Elite Archery Carbon Era for all of 2024. I'm starting this year with that, but then I'm going to be switching. Once I get it set up, I just got it, the new Elite Carbon Eon. So once I get it set up, I'll switch over to that. It seems like a really sweet bow. So I'll be sharing more about that in the days ahead. And I have a poundage, typically about 67 pounds is what I shoot. And I'm using a 500 grain arrow for most of the shooting. I'd like to use Bishop arrows. I use the Bishop FOC Kings for most of my shooting. For the really hard impact stuff, I use the Bishop FAD Eliminator, Firearms Dispatch Eliminator. Okay, you don't need a firearms to dispatch the animal if you use this one. These are really tough. They're a lot heavier too. And I use their crossbow bolt, the Goat bolt, for my crossbow. So that's the flight. The maximum score is 20% of the overall score, 20 points. And then the next test is the sharpness and edge retention. So I use for this the best resource I know. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than everything else I've used, is the Edge On Up Sharpness Tester. And it has this copolymer wire that's all loaded in, and it measures the pressure in grams of force that it takes to cut through the wire. So I do that initially right out of the package before I shoot it at all to see the sharpness. And then after penetration test 1, which I'll get to in a second, I test it again to see the delta, to see the change in the sharpness, and that gets evaluated based on edge retention. Because when you hit an animal, man, that edge retention is much more important than the initial sharpness. You're going to lose that initial sharpness on the hide or shortly thereafter, and that edge retention really becomes the crucial factor as it penetrates through. So again, the maximum score is 20 points. And I also have 2 points in there for the ease of resharpening or replacing the blades. I really highly recommend the Stay Sharp guide. Like they're just these incredible, not expensive broadhead sharpeners that are model specific. So different broadheads use a different model of the Stay Sharp guide sharpener. And in each of the videos, I explain which one is best for the broadhead that I'm introducing there. So then again, that's a maximum of 20 points for the blades: sharpness, edge retention, ease to resharpen or replace the blades for a mechanical. And then the third area is penetration. Man, you want to penetrate deeply into an animal, right? I use first clear ballistics FBI grade gel. It's an extremely consistent gel that I can melt down and reuse so it lasts a long time, and you can see the broadhead going into it most of the times, unless I get the camera angle wrong or something like that. But then gel can tend to stick to the arrow shaft and not be the same as meat, as tissue. So I add, to make it a little more realistic, I add a layer of 1/2 inch of MDF, medium density fiberboard, sandwiched between two 1/3 layers of rubber foam mat. And those are clamped down together with C-clamps. And so I shoot it into that, measure the overall penetration. For comparative purposes, when I do that with a field point, it penetrates 10 inches. Then in addition to that, I shoot it into layered cardboard. I have like 80 layers of cardboard that I hold together with 4 F-clamps, really tighten down so it's as consistent as I know how. And then I shoot the broadhead into that, and I measure the total layers of the cardboard that the broadhead penetrates. And so I report that within the video, and then use that with the formula to, again, calculate the score on a 20-point scale. So that's 20% for penetration. And then the fourth area is durability. How tough is that broadhead going to be when it hits something hard? So I like to test these to the extreme level. The first test is not actually that difficult, but it's 3 shots into 1/2 inch MDF. So I shoot it 3 times to see the durability of the broadhead. And that gets 12, that's a maximum of 12 out of the 20 points. Then I shoot it into a 22 gauge sheet of steel. And so here's the steel that I shoot it into. I know we don't hunt steel, okay? People always say, I've never seen an animal with steel plating. Yeah, neither have I. But I want to separate the broadheads that say they can from the ones that really can. And I want to see, what is the durability like? Is that crucial to go through steel to hunt with? No. Is it helpful? You better believe it. And my hard-earned shot on an animal, I want it to be as durable as it possibly can be. So that accounts for 5 out of the 20 points in the durability, 5% of the total score overall. And then the final test is into cinder block. I shoot it with kind of a 0 penetration test. Bam! With like a 750 grain arrow, smack into the cinder block. It's a little dangerous. I've had arrows bounce back and almost stick into me. It's kind of scary. I'm working on being safer with that. But anyway, I want to see, like, what's the structural integrity of the broadhead like? If it can handle a shot into cinder block, then man, it could probably handle a shot into shoulder or something like that. So it's not a pass-fail. It's not like the broadhead sucks if it can't hold up to cinder block. It only accounts for 3% of the overall score, 3 out of the 20 points in the durability department. But hey, that's important, and it's something to consider. If you don't think that's important, then disregard that test. If you do, well, again, you can know the broadheads that can from the ones that think they can or say they can. So that's the durability. That's 20% of the score. And then the final test is for cut size. The bigger the cut size, the more damage it's going to cause, bottom line. Of course, it's going to affect the penetration. That's a different test. But I test the initial hole that it makes, because sometimes mechanical broadheads have a small opening hole. Sometimes they have a big opening hole. So I measure that, and I measure the total maximum cut, and then I measure the total diameter, because I found the wider that cut, the more the skin and tissue stretch, and the bigger that hole becomes. So I plug that all into my formula, and again, that's 20 points of the score. So you get a total of 20 points for each of these 5 areas for a maximum of 100 points, all right? Just like a test you took in high school or something like that. Now, I also have bonuses or deductions for other minor things from some cool features or problematic features. I'll add a little bonus or take away a bonus. Rotation of a single bevel gets a little bonus. There's some things like that I add in other variables that are minor, but can give an extra good score or reduce that score just a little bit. I include the score sheet, all the data, the formulas I use to calculate the score, in the video description of every video. You click on the title, and all the description of what I'm doing in the video and the scoring, it all comes up. I always quantify the price per broadhead as well, because some are sold in bigger packs than others. So the price per broadhead, so you can compare that with your budget size. And then with that 100-point score, I correlate it to what I call a Lusk grade. It gets either 10 golden arrows, or 9 golden arrows, or 8, or 7, or 6. What's interesting is a lot of them get in the 7 or 8 golden arrows, and you go, oh, it all kind of is the same. What's the point? There's not enough degrees of separation. But there is when you look at how they got there. And that's where it comes into your own use of this data points. Maybe it got there because it was really durable and had a really big cut. Or maybe it got there because it had really good penetration. So you can see why it scored what it did and choose the broadhead accordingly for what you think is most important. I hope that makes sense. Then in addition on my channel, the last thing I include in every video is my discount codes. When I have a broadhead that performs really well, I initiate with the broadhead manufacturer and I say, hey, can I get a discount code to pass on to my viewers? And a lot of them do. Some of them don't. A lot of them do. And so those that do, I put on this last slide so you can save some money when you're buying these broadheads. I also put it in the video description. You click on the title, you can see the description. The last thing is the discount code, so you can see like what you can do to save some money. On some of those discount codes, I get a very small commission on them, and that helps me and helps the channel. Some of them, I may not even get that, but it's kind of a win-win situation for the manufacturer to get the business, for you to get a discount, and in some cases for me to get a little commission to help out with the channel. So far in 2025, I've already finished the tests for 12 different broadheads, and I'm working on compiling all that footage and editing the videos and calculating the scores. I'll be posting those in the weeks ahead. And I have another, gosh, I think 40 or 50 broadheads in a big bin that are ready to be tested after that. So I've already got so many, and I know other manufacturers are sending new models that are coming out. Just got some in the mail yesterday. Saw some of them at the ATA show last week. Some of you have said you're going to be mailing some in. Thank you for doing that. Just reach out to me on Instagram or on Facebook or here on my channel. Ask my mailing address, and I'm happy to share that with you so you can donate a pack of broadheads. But that's what we're doing. That's what we're setting out to accomplish in 2025. And God willing, I'm going to be healed enough to go on some exciting hunts that I can share with you as well. So I hope this channel helps you to choose the broadhead that's going to help you be the most successful in your hunting endeavors this year and beyond. Again, serious testing, successful hunting. God bless. I look forward to seeing you in my first broadhead video coming up soon.